Okay, so I'm on my way to work. I went to the doctor. I got my ultrasound done. It's kind of weird. It's like the same process they use when you are pregnant. Like when my wife was pregnant, it's like the same thing. They just like cover you in this jelly, and then they use this little scanner and rub it against your belly to like basically take imaging of like each different organ. And I think this is mostly just studying my abdomen. And it was actually a pretty cool experience. We'll see. So far, I haven't had recurring pain come back. The part of me that felt really weak is feeling pretty okay. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, hopefully they find nothing, or they find what it is. Honestly, either way, it'll be nice. But I'd like to know what that was that caused me to go to the emergency room on earlier this week. We'll see. I'll keep you guys informed and let you know. So I'm on my way where I work as an art director, and I don't know why, but I was thinking about Joe versus the Volcano. I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie. I loved that movie so much when I was a kid, and like hardly anyone I knew had seen it. So it's one of those movies that when I'd have friends over, I think I had it recorded. This is like back when VCRs would like record, you could record stuff that was on TV. And I think we had recorded that movie, or we had bought it at like a Blockbuster, but it's this back in VHS days. So it's like the big, VHS tape, you put it in the VCR and then just like play this movie for friends. And I was thinking about it just now, like how the themes in that movie, I know it's weird, but I would recommend you guys watch it if you're writers. It's a little over the top and very on the nose. Like, it's a movie that has a very clear thematic arc to it that's very and a very clear moral to it, right? Because I'm gonna turn down the AC too, because you guys might be hearing a lot of that. So it has like a pretty clear storyline, a meaning, and a lot of symbolism throughout. So you keep seeing these like kind of broken lines that kind of look like a lightning bolt throughout the entire movie. And all of them are reflecting this path that Joe ends up having to go up to like get in the volcano. But anyhow, so I'm gonna summarize it from what I remember. Keep in mind, it's been about a decade since I last watched it, and I was just thinking on my drive to work like that I need to see this movie again. So if I get the summary wrong, you can correct me in the comments and stuff. But this is just me going off about a decade-old memory. So Joe is this character. He's like going to a job where they make, it pretty much seems like they make like sex toys like at his job. But they're very like exploitative, and I think they make like, all this stuff out of like silicone at this terrible office, and it's like a plant where everybody punches in, and the art direction of the place is like pretty ridiculous. I think the soundtrack has like the Muscle and Blood song, which is a great classic kind of song about just how, like life, it's kind of like an Ecclesiastes type thing, where it's like making the point that quite often life is just kind of clocking in, doing your job, and just getting older and older and sicker as life continues to just kind of wear you down to like nothing. And the boss at this place is like the type of boss that just keeps asking and kind of exploiting his workers until he's worn them down to nothing. And then Joe suddenly gets diagnosed. I was thinking about this because I was realizing, like, I hope I'm not Joe in this case, where my stomach hurt and it's a reflection of something more psychological. I doubt it, but you never know. So Joe goes to this doctor because he doesn't feel good. He's just not feeling good. He's never feeling like himself. He feels like a guy who doesn't get any sunlight, and he's trapped in an office, and he's trapped in like a terrible corporate environment. Just kind of doing his day-to-day, feeding his fish or whatever, and then like just routine, starting it all over again. And then Joe suddenly just stops. Like, he keeps going to the doctor. He's a paranoid person. And finally he goes to like a specialist because his doctor keeps saying like, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just being paranoid. You just honestly don't like your life, right? So he goes to he finally has this like specialist who visits him and tells him, hey, you've got this rare condition. It's called a brain cloud. And it's going to cause you depression and anxiety and paranoia and all of this stuff. And so the doctor kind of diagnoses him with a brain cloud. And he's told he only has like, I forget how long. It's a very short time to live. And so Joe like instantly, like hooks up, like, or tries to hook up with his coworker that he's had a crush on for years because he's a single guy. And then his coworker's like, oh, we can't. I'm just not like that. I'm not going to do this quick thing. And I think the character was played by, I think, Meg Ryan or something. And I think she played like 4 different characters in the movie, which is funny. It's a comedy. But then Joe is like, so Joe quits his job because he can't stand his boss. And his boss gives him a hard time because at first he tries to kind of brighten things up at his job. Like he brings like a little lamp that like has a rotating picture that again, like art direction wise, kind of reflects his future journey. So he goes through all that, and by the way, I'm going to give a little bit of spoilers. It's a very old movie that came out in like the late 80s or early 90s. I think the early 90s. And I forget how this happens, but like Joe just basically stops giving a crap about everything that causes him anxiety and sadness in his life. But he's also very depressed because he has no money. And so he has no money. His health insurance is going to run out because he just quit his job. He tells off his boss. He talks about like just how the lights are like sucking the energy and the life from his brain. When he finally gets back to his apartment, he's like trying to kind of assess and figure out what he's going to do with his life. I think he even contemplates suicide, but then he opts not to. And this old eccentric man is waiting for him at his apartment and basically explains like, hey, I'm this eccentric billionaire. I basically have a proposition for you. And he's like, and I'm looking for some, I've been looking through medical records for people with like a low amount of time to live who are kind of like currently healthy. Like it's not affecting like their ability to kind of travel or move currently, but don't have that long to live. And he's like basically like, hey, I've got this like, he's like, I bought an island a long time ago in my business that where we make I forget what he does with the island, but he owns the island, and then the locals there usually have this belief that they can appease the gods by like basically having somebody volunteer to jump into this volcano. It's an active volcano at the island, and the locals at the island are sincerely convinced that that if the volcano is appeased, it won't explode and it won't go off. And so they've done this traditionally forever, and then they hadn't, and now they want this guy, this owner, or I don't even know if he owns the island. It's been a long time. He may just like have a business on the island or something. But basically like the locals want to do this sacrifice again because they noticed the volcano is starting to act up. And so what he's trying to do is get somebody to jump into the volcano, and he thinks Joe would be the perfect candidate for it. So Joe, and he basically says, here's the catch. You don't have that long to live. I'm going to give you limitless budget on my credit card. You can just run it up. And he's like, well, you know, you're gonna have like the best last few months of your life, you know, just doing whatever the heck you want. You're gonna be treated like a hero on the island because they'll all think you're this great guy who's gonna jump into the volcano, and so on. So, and he's like, and if you want to do this, you know, he's like, my daughter has a boat that gets us to the island. There's a whole bunch of silly side plots. Like, I think that he somehow exchanges orange cola with this tribe for goods that he then sells in the market, and they're obsessed with like orange cola, and I guess he's the guy who makes orange soda or something. So anyhow, Joe kind of ends up going. He has this insanely complicated trip at sea. The boat capsizes when they're at sea, and he keeps meeting these different people throughout. And so Joe uses his luggage and takes care of Meg Ryan's character, who's like the boat captain who he saves. And then they get to the island. And much like the old eccentric millionaire is promising, you know, they get there and it's like they're treated like heroes. There's this big celebration. And Joe and Meg at this point have fallen in love. Meg Ryan's character. I can't remember which, because she, like I said, she plays like 3 different characters. So then Joe finally, you know, opts that he's gonna jump into the volcano, and then something happens where like the volcano like won't take him, like it spits him out, and then the whole island drowns, and then Joe goes off into the sunset on a boat with, I think, Meg, and off to explore, but at this point has lost all fear. Whereas like throughout the whole movie, his whole battle is really with his fear of taking any risk whatsoever in his life. He's just a guy who's kind of gone along to get along and has become depressed and miserable for it. Oh, and there's a catch. The old man lied about the brain cloud and was just trying to get a sucker who was a depressed individual to volunteer to jump into a volcano, and was exploiting Joe. And so, anyhow, so I was just thinking about this movie. I'd recommend seeing it. I'm not recapping it that great. But the thing I like about the movie's themes are the idea of like a life being kind of worthless that's lived in just utter fear of risk. And also it's about, you know, like young adulthood to like midlife, where, you know, people can end up like trapped at jobs they don't like, or you know, basically like just restricting their lives out of fear of confronting their volcano, right? So the volcano becomes like a metaphor for like the thing that you need to do, but you avoid out of fear, or you avoid out of just like complacency. Like you get kind of normal and stuck. And the movie, it's over the top, but it does a really good job of kind of making that moral argument that like a life lived in fear is not a life worth living, kind of thing. And I was mainly thinking of that because I don't know, for some reason when I was getting my ultrasound, I was like, are they going to diagnose me with a brain cloud and then I have to jump in a volcano? And then it just got me thinking like, well, what's my volcano, right? And for me, the big volcano is comics. And I really do need to jump into it and continue to make comics. And anything, all the other worries and stuff are really just kind of like distractions from the one thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And so I'm glad that I'm doing it. I'm glad that I'm kind of confronting my volcano or whatever. But it got me thinking about that. And then also thinking about like, are there things in life? And I think this is a really good thing for all of us to ask ourselves, but this is something I'm definitely, I don't know why I thought of Joe versus Volcano or whatever. but one of the things I've been thinking about is like, is there something that like I've been holding on to in my life that like is only because of fear? Okay, sorry, ran out of storage space, so I had to clear some from my phone, which is what I record these on. So it's more just like the metaphor, and just kind of letting that metaphor sink in, and also just appreciating a good story with a solid metaphor. And again, I think that's one of those movies that like flew under the radar. It's super goofy. I'm not going to pretend that it's like this extremely serious movie, but it is still to this day one of my favorite movies. I'm curious what you guys think about it. Have you seen Joe versus the Volcano? What's your volcano, and what's your kind of journey and stuff with that? And do you guys ever have those moments where there's like a silly movie you remember as a kid, and like some of the moral lessons cause you to kind of question and think? And I don't know. I think that's one of the great things about art. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. And if you ever want to hear a rant like that again, and if you're enjoying these vlogs, because I know they're random, they kind of show up whenever, but I am enjoying doing them. So, all right, I will see you guys on the next vlog or live stream. Bye.